Happy Halloween and welcome to Secrets of NYC Schools. Honestly, is there anything more scary than that? I'm Alina Adams, author of the books Getting into NYC Kindergarten and Getting into NYC High School, available on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. I wrote those books to make the kindergarten and high school applications process less scary, and I do these podcasts for the same reason. Scared of missing a deadline or hearing about the latest changes in the application system? Then make sure you sign up for my mailing list. The link is on the homepage of my website, www.nycschoolsecrets.com. Also on my website, an exclusive calculator for figuring out the optimal date you should sign your child up for gifted and talented testing, and an explanation of why the right date could make or break your chances of getting in. This week's podcast is dedicated to a topic many parents have asked me about: getting into either Hunter College Elementary School at the kindergarten level or getting into Hunter College High School. I go into great detail about the schools and the application process, including a typical grade level entry in my books, so make sure you check those out for the big picture as well as for your odds of getting in. But first, the big news. Hunter kindergarten applications are closing this week. The last day for you to apply is Friday, November 4th, and then you only have 3 weeks to get your child evaluated by a Hunter-approved tester. So if you haven't done it yet, do it soon, preferably as soon as you finish listening to this podcast of admissions tips and tricks. Though don't confuse the Hunter test with the public school G&T test. Those required for testing forms are due on Monday, November 14th. As for Hunter College High School, the applications are due the Friday after this coming one, November 10th. Unlike the Hunter kindergarten test, which is open to all Manhattan residing 4-year-olds, candidates for Hunter College High School testing can live anywhere in the 5 boroughs, but they have to qualify to take the exam based on their state test scores. That cutoff changes year to year. Go to their website to learn what it is for 2016 and whether you are eligible to take the test. But what are the Hunter testers really looking for in a student? That's what all the parents who come to me want to know. What are they looking for, and how can we prepare our children for the tests? Please don't believe Hunter's claims that their tests cannot be prepped for. Their tests can absolutely be prepped for, and families do it every single year. Not every family, but enough. In both my books, I list companies that do precisely that. When we come back, we'll talk with a Hunter High School parent who is also in the test prep business and who has generously volunteered to pull back the curtain on the entire mystery-shrouded process. Stay tuned.
Alta Ipsum is an organization, planning, and grade tracking tool designed to help students understand their strengths and weaknesses, study more effectively, and achieve their goals. Helping students do their best, altaipsum.com.
We are back, and we are speaking with Brendan Mernon, founding tutor and director of outreach for Noodle Pros, as well as a parent of one daughter at Hunter College High School and another one at Brooklyn's top private school for the gifted, St. Anne's. Brendan offered parents his best tips for getting kids ready for testing into any school, but especially Hunter. Listen in.
Brendan, as the parent of a child at Hunter College High School and a tutor at NoodlePros.com, what would you say are the main differences between applying to Hunter College Elementary and Hunter High School?
Well, first of all, the biggest difference is the age at which people apply. Of course, for the elementary school, it's kindergarten admission, so you're just out of the toddler age, and then for the high school, it's the test in 6th grade. So that would be the biggest difference in the sense that the younger kids, it's more about it's more about, I would say, probably potential achievement, whereas for the older kids it's more about demonstrated school achievement. For the older kids, for the high school, you pretty much would need to be about a couple of grade levels ahead in math at least, and then on the verbal side, being a devoted reader and a pretty good writer, it would be what you'd need for that. On the elementary, of course, you'd want to be, I would say, pretty well along in starting to acquire your reading skill, and certainly have a good vocabulary and be able to do what a well-known former private school director called manipulate symbols.
What does that mean, manipulate?
In other words, manipulating symbols is, language, math, pictures, directions, pieces of puzzles, anything that's symbolic logic where it's not just the thing itself, but what the thing represents. The more sophisticated the younger kid is at understanding the representation of the object or the idea as opposed to just the thing itself, and the more sophistication and complexity that a kid can do that with, then the further along they're going to be in any sort of gifted and talented type of kindergarten admission test.
So would you say that the elementary school test is more of an IQ test, whereas the Hunter High School is more of a test of what you've learned?
I think they're both IQ tests, but the younger one is more of a straight IQ test. The older one is going to have academic content, but with IQ approaches, in the sense that you could have a problem when you're older that has to do with volume or the area of in square feet of wrapping paper, and certainly there'll be straight academic content such as the conversion from square inches to square feet. But then there'll also be an IQ component in the sense of being able to remember, how the ribbon overlapped, or knowing the most clever way to cut the paper so that it's used most efficiently. And that's not so much just straight academics knowing the formula or knowing how to calculate or execute the formula.
Now, you also have a child at St. Anne's, a private school for gifted students in Brooklyn. How does what kids get at Hunter vary from what they might get at a private school?
Well, I think that's that question gets to why there's such a stampede of demand for people in Manhattan to get into Hunter Elementary School. And my kids were not eligible for Hunter Elementary School because we live in Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. But I would say the difference between it is minimal in the sense that for Hunter Elementary School, you're basically getting a private school education at no cost. And what I mean by that is that it's not that all private school elementary schools are the same. There's a range of them. Some are for kids who are ahead of grade level, and some are for kids who are behind grade level and want to catch up or whatever. But between St. Anne's and Hunter, I would say the biggest difference would really be that the St. Anne's building is a nicer building. The Hunter building is older. The Hunter building doesn't have windows, and the St. Anne's building, the lower school, is in a very lovely, not very old building. But other than that, I'd say you're talking about pretty similar schools. St. Anne's is famous for its arts throughout the curriculum. So I'd say there's probably few other schools in the country really that have as much visual art and poetry throughout the curriculum. I think the thing that struck me as being most distinctive about St. Anne's, because my daughter just finished the lower school there last spring, was, and she's a big visual arts kid, so she loved all that. There's opportunities to do visual art all day. But the other thing that struck me that I wasn't as aware of is that there's expert level poetry instruction in every grade level, starting in kindergarten, and that to me was outstanding for literacy development.
It's interesting that you compare Hunter to a private school, because most people think it's a public school, but it's actually not. It's not under the Department of Ed. It's actually a lab school under Hunter College. So in that sense, I guess you're right. It is a tuition-free private school rather than being a public school.
It is, and I think that because it gets such a strong group of students, and because it's located in a good location, and there's so much parent support, and not being under DOE regulations per se, all of them, I think it attracts. I think my sense is that the elementary school at Hunter attracts really good faculty who are committed to the mission and want to work with a strong group of really eager kids.
So what is the main piece of advice you would give to parents preparing to apply their children to either Hunter Kindergarten or the high school?
Well, I would say for one thing is make sure it's a good fit, in the sense that it's an accelerated curriculum in either place, and you want to be sure that your kid is happy moving fast. I think that's really the biggest thing. Every kid is different, and every kid has different needs. If your kid likes to move fast and just doesn't want to be slowed down much at all, then it's perfect for you. it'll go super fast, and the kids will be happy for it to go fast. And if your kid is like that, your kid will be thrilled.
One question that I often get is, what are they looking for? What is Hunter looking for? What's your sense of what is Hunter looking for in a student?
Overall, the kids, I see a lot of my daughter's friends, and of course, I tutor the high school entrance exam every year. I don't tutor the elementary school entrance exam, although Noodle Pros, of course, has tutors who do. My sense is that from all throughout, they're looking for kids who are intellectually curious, who are precise, who have a lot of verbal skill and want to know a lot about the world, kids who are ambitious, kids who are funny and creative. I think one of the reasons that, throughout K-12, and I think the elementary school really feeds into this because a lot of the creative kids at the high school level seem to me to come from the elementary school. Seems like a pretty high proportion of them. So I think that the elementary school is like St. Anne's in that it teaches a lot of creativity. But if you look at some of the people who've graduated from Hunter in the last 20, 30 years or even longer, Ruby Dee, Lin-Manuel Miranda, the guy who wrote Frozen, I think Lopez, amazing achievement on the creative side, just extraordinary people. And, a lot of that has to do with it's just a place where there are so many bright, eager kids, striving to have fun and do really well.
And what can parents do at home to, not exactly, I guess, say create or prepare, but what can parents do at home to facilitate a child being the sort of child that Hunter would be interested in?
I think that's a great question. I can speak from my own experience only because my wife, I think, was pretty good at this when our kids were young. The usual read to them every day, take them all over the place to museums, all that stuff. I would say what I could add to what you may have already heard is, my wife just stories. She told them so many stories, and she read folk tales to them, and to me that sort of thing. I think that there's science logic and then there's story logic. Narrative logic is a little bit different from science logic, and being able to sort of code switch back and forth between the two is super valuable, and gives kids, I think, a fluidity of mind that Hunter's looking for. If you look at the way that the entrance exam works when they take it in 6th grade, there's certainly a straight math component. There's a reading there's grammar, but then there's also an essay, and the essay is fairly open-ended. My daughter's question when she took it was, describe a journey you took in New York City. And that's a spoiler alert if don't tell your kid if you want to use that later as practice. But my daughter, what she did was I thought pretty extraordinary, and this was her idea. But my wife, I think, had set her up for it by telling her so many good stories. My daughter told the story of a man who owned a diner on our corner who had emigrated from Greece to the United States, and he had recently died before the exam, and she was close to him because we went to his diner every afternoon, and then she had apple juice. And she told the story of riding the elevated train to his funeral and just used that as a meditation on people moving to New York and their dreams and their ambitions and what he had taught her. And, I don't think she would have been able to do that without having read and heard and been told just thousands of stories since she was, had any kind of language. And I think that's the kind of thing that Hunter's looking for, because if you look at the way they grade the high school test, they'll take the top 400 or 500 on, the straight sort of junior SAT/IQ test, and then they read the essays, and then they'll take the 200 or 225 or however many spots they have to fill. They'll take those. And what that means is basically the English and the history department, they want to work with kids who have language and can use it. And that's the kind of school they want to put together. And, if it's a good fit for your kid, it's I think a tremendous opportunity.
So there's the work that parents can do. There's the work that you can get by having your child prep, which is something that Noodle Pros does. In addition to the Hunter tests, what other kind of tests does Noodle Pros prep for?
Well, pretty much everything, any kind of test that you would be taking from about age 4 to whenever. Certainly GNT tests, Hunter test, NEST, any kind of the ISEE, the ABLE, ERB,
the
SHSAT, SSAT, SAT, ACT, subject tests, APs, LSAT,
so an alphabet
GRE, all of it.
Okay.
If it's got letters in it, pretty much we teach it.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Brendan, for taking the time
pleasure.
to speak with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Elena.
You can learn more about test prep for Hunter and all the other tests Brendan mentioned, including public GNT programs and the SHSAT for specialized public high schools at www.noodlepros.com. That's www.noodlepros.com, as well as in my books, Getting into NYC Kindergarten and Getting into NYC High School, available on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. And if you've got questions you want to ask me in person, make sure you come to my workshops this week. Getting into NYC Kindergarten on Tuesday at Dazzling Discoveries, and Getting into NYC High School on Wednesday at Skill Mill NYC. For more information on those, as well as a special Gifted and Talented workshop I'm doing on Thursday, November 17th at Evolution Enrichment Preschool in Tribeca, go to my website, www.nycschoolsecrets.com, and click on Workshops Open to the Public. Plus, don't forget to subscribe to the NYC School Secrets mailing list to make sure you don't miss a twist or turn in the application process. We'll talk next week. Have a great Halloween.